Welcome to AEC Stories and the Josh O'Brien, Josh O's radio show. It's a special Veterans Day special we got today with Josh O'Brien, former Seabee, and kind of mentor that's helped me start my podcasting. And welcome aboard, Josh. How are you today?
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, thanks for the kind words, you know.
It's not quite what you're used to as being brought up on stage. You're being a comedian.
It's a special cast. When you say special cast, should I wear a bicycle helmet and get in a short bus on the way out of here?
Maybe a little propeller hat too.
No, but hey, for real, man, thanks for hitting me up and contacting me. And, you know, because I wouldn't know that my podcast is actually being listened to that much if you didn't, you want to hit me up and make a long story short, you know, because you're doing this now too, it's kind of like you're talking to yourself in the woods. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times you don't know how many people are actually listening to you. You know, you just take your thing. You have good ideas and good intentions for the most part, and you talk to cool people usually, and then you upload it and you're like, I wonder if anybody heard it. And then it's funny because in 6-8 months later, you'll totally think, all right, well, I did that. And then you kind of forget that this is accessible at any time by anybody. And they'll be like, I just listen to your podcast. You're like, oh, shit, that was like 6-8 months ago. Are we allowed to cuss on your show, right?
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Yeah,
this is a Navy show. This is not the...
you also did say you had a sailor on here, or not a sailor, a bosun mate chief or whatever. And those motherfuckers, they can cuss like Seabees or vice versa. And well, bosun's been around longer than Seabees, so we'll give them credit.
Yeah, that's there's a lot of that old salty sailorness, definitely in bosun's mates. I mean, they're kind of like the infantry of the ship. I mean, they do all the hard shit, you know. They do all the grinder work. If you were to compare,
that's what, like, literally, I was in an amphibious construction battalion in Virginia Beach. I was an ACB 2. Or FIB CB2, whatever it says on the rocker nowadays. It changes every once in a while. And I was in charge of the green side of the house, and I was in the training department. I started off in Charlie Company. We went to the training department, and one of my best buddies at the place was John Kerr. He was a BM1, and he was in charge of the blue side. So I had the green side, he had the blue side, and we just had like it wasn't even like going to work. It was like going to Comedy Central every day. And JMFK, John motherfucking Kerr, and I was JMFO, Josh motherfucking O'Brien, and we're JMFP, just motherfucking promotable.
How was that? Did you get to ride on any of those amphibious crafts, or are you just mainly shore-based, or how'd that work for you? Did you have to get a bunch of equipment and ride in on the stuff, or what?
Well, we did a lot of training like that. It was ship-to-shore replenishment, like you had two different types of ways to do it. You had water and fuel. They had to do ship to shore. And you also had an LCAS, an elevated causeway system, which is a big-ass pier with two turntables at the end. And,
cool.
Yeah, and it's big enough, but it's small enough. It's big enough for two semi-trucks to drive side by side, one on and one coming off. Mm-hmm. But it's so narrow that you gotta fucking drive on the wrong side so the driver can look straight down and make sure he doesn't go off the side of the pier. You know what I mean? So it's kind of crazy.
What a trip! So what?
Because you have your warfare qualifications. You know, you have CB combat warfare there. You have your coxswain quals or whatever the hell, your bosun mate pin. It looks like I used to call it the Bruins. You know what I mean? Because it looks like the Boston Bruins like wheel. I apologize.
No worries. Hang in there.
You're going to probably have to edit a shit ton of me hacking.
It's okay. The people like the extra exclamation points.
Yeah, hacking is in like coffin, not hacking is in steel material. But yeah.
Well, yeah, not everybody knows on my show that you're also a stand-up comedian. You ply your trade down in L.A. And you started while you were in the Navy, right?
Yeah, I did. I started hanging out at the world famous Comedy Store in West Hollywood before I transferred to Virginia Beach. And it was really cool, man. I started hitting some of the open mics. I started grinding it out a little bit here, but not a whole lot because I didn't quite understand how it worked, you know?
Yeah.
I realized that anybody could be a comic if they just wanted to find out where the fucking local open mics are. And anybody can do it. Because everybody listening to this has heard a stand-up comic and they said to themselves, I can do a better job than that.
That's where it starts, right? That's that where everybody's journey starts?
Yeah, I think so. I don't really think it might be the compete level. I think it's just the love of the game. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you know, it's just like baseball or hockey. I'm a hockey guy. You're like, man, what the fuck is this guy thinking? Why doesn't he shoot? He keeps passing. You know, you just look at it from a different perspective, and then you get into it and you start doing it. And next thing you know, like, oh, this shit's hard.
Oh, that puck's going pretty fast. I didn't anticipate that, right?
Yeah. You've never played. Oh, okay. So this is what it's like to ice skate. You're like basically talking out your ass. You're like, you never ice skate before, but you play better hockey than people.
That's so true. I mean, so how many years ago? How many years ago did you start?
About 7, 8 years ago. Like when I started taking it seriously like 5 years ago.
So what was it like from the beginning? When did you feel like, I've made it? And then it was like an up and down roller coaster or what?
No, I take that back. I started taking it seriously about 7 years ago. I started doing it about 10 years ago. Yeah, that sounds more right. No, just like, hey, this is the thing I want to do. You know what I mean? It wasn't like I'm getting it. I don't think you really are ever a master of it. It takes 10 years to get good at it. It takes 10 years to get decent at it. You know what I mean?
A lot of timing, tempo, and delivery, and crafting your material, right?
Right. It's like a trade, you know? Like you can't fucking, you can't just be like, I'm a welder and then think, oh, great, I can weld. You got to go and you got to do it. You got to go and you got to fucking weld to be a welder. You know what I mean? And it's not like being a guitarist. Like, if I was a guitarist, and God bless those guys because they get more pussy than I do because they're guitarists. They fucking play guitar and they sit in their room and they play guitar and they're fucking good and then they practice. You know, I mean, I work at KLOS, so I'm friends with a lot of, Steve Jones, the founder of the Sex Pistols, is my buddy. You know what I mean? Like, people like that, they play and they practice and they get good. But as a comic, the only way you get good is at comedy, being a comic, is to go do comedy. You can't fucking sit in a room and be like, oh, I got an idea. I think this will work. No, you gotta go out. You gotta try it. Every joke is like a fucking Spanish sword. You know what I'm saying? Like Toledo steel. You write it out. You fucking lay out the metal. You pound it out. I'm going to do a lot of fucking metal analogies here because that was my shit, steelworker.
Yeah.
Basically the HT of the shore.
Had one on the other day, by the way. Had a HT on. His job was a little different. You know, he called himself a turd chaser. They had to go.
That's the side of the house too. They got the plumbing. That's kind of UT side, but they do a fuck ton of welding, man. And then they used to have pattern makers. Was a rate that it became part of the HT side of the house. It was PMs. Everybody, my Percy. He was a pattern maker, but anyways, I sound like my grandpa. All right, well, remember back when Joey was a pattern maker back in World War II today. But back to like what I was saying though. Every joke you do, every time you write a joke, you got to work it out. You got to do it in front of a live audience. And if it works, good. If it doesn't work, rewrite it. And if it does work, how can I make it better? You know what I mean?
Yeah, the only way to it is through it, and it's the same. The same holds true in sales. I did sales for years, and I've been around motivational speakers, and the ones that get paid, they've got their delivery on point. They're hitting every cue. It's like the perfect composition of a top 10 song that delivers and makes you feel that energy and that emotion. If you don't hit on all those key points, then the joke doesn't come through. You might be way over on the left. The words are right, but the timing and the tempo is off. So you're saying it too monotone. It doesn't have any, fluctuations on the voice or whatever. I see it.
And you're not being racist enough. No, I'm just kidding. Just the opposite, really.
Well, it's a strange time for comedy, that's for sure. But so you're
speaking of strange time. I love the Comedy Store. Like I'll hit all the clubs around here, and I'll do whatever I can to go up, and then usually at the end of the night I'll go hang out at the Comedy Store in West Hollywood. And lately, it's been Dave Chappelle doing like 2 hours at the end of the night. It's fucking crazy. And most comics get upset. They're like, oh shit, I'm getting bumped. But then it's like, oh, Chappelle's here? Fuck yeah. and they want to hang out and watch, because really it's like watching an all-star pitcher. You're like, man, I'm the relief pitcher, but I'll stay in the bullpen, just to watch this guy, practice his miracles and craft. Oh, by the way, you're gonna hear some funny noises. That's me making coffee.
Okay, I thought you were on a treadmill with a pair of nunchucks or something, but it's all good. That's something we do when we get out of the Navy. Try to stay in shape.
Oh yeah, dude.
I highly recommend it.
We all big influenced by Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I know that. Well, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. One of the guys had a martial arts school out here in San Jose. Ernie raised. So that was his claim to fame. And I was like, I owned an MMA gym years later with some people, and it's funny because that real martial arts and TV martial arts. Well, the TV martial arts sells pretty damn good. You get more money being a Ninja Turtle, I think. But what was I going to say? You being in the Seabees, did you ever get any time at sea or anything like that? Like on a ship for like a week or anything?
No, not at all.
None.
No, it was
landing craft.
Not my calling. No, for being a steelworker, I mean, you do have people that do maritime shit. And there are sometimes, like, say, like when the earthquake in Haiti happened, there were some guys that were sitting outside, waiting to go on land via ship, and stuff like that. But for the most part, Seabees don't really see ships that often. I mean, you might see like an article where, 20, 30 guys out of a fucking 600-700 man battalion, 500 man battalion, however many they are now, they keep downsizing. And that's it. You'll see like fucking, and they'll be like, Seabees on sea. No, 30 fucking people in a battalion. 5% of your people are on a boat. That's it. 5%. That's not a whole lot. That's sea. No, 5 fucking % dude.
Well, was there like a different, okay, we got sea pay. Did you guys get some type of deployment pay or something special or other than hazard duty being in war zones or theaters at least, right?
Wow, man, my thing sounds like diarrhea, dude. The fucking Keurig sounds like it's shitting. It's like, but
it's a Keurig.
Keurig going on in the background. I'll make it a cup. But we got
a new sponsor,
right?
Brought to you by Keurig. Yeah, the sailor's drink.
Yeah, it should be brought to you by Hall's cough drops. And I don't have any cough drops. No, we didn't get sea pay per se like you guys did, which we really shouldn't, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? Because we were on land, and you guys had it, pretty shitty out on boats. I'm going to say we had it a lot shittier getting shot at in fucking convoys, but I mean, that's a game that we could always play. I had it worse. You know what I'm saying? Have you talked to every sailor? You talk to any sailor or anybody in the military, they always had it worse, and then they had it better than you. Like, whatever it is, like, oh, dude, you don't know, man, how bad that deployment was. Or, dude, that deployment was so awesome, you will never know how good it was.
Yeah, it's so true. It's like, yeah, well, all we ever had for dessert was applesauce. It could be something as simple as that. It was, I liked being out at sea. But when the grass is always greener, when you're on one, you want the other. But, I don't know. I mean, it's cool that you get that land duty. And, it's interesting. A lot of people,
and the thing is too, is for naval mobile construction battalions, because that's where I spent most of my career. I was in 4 different ones throughout my career, man, all out of Port Hueneme. And I was at one amphibious construction battalion. That was out of Little Creek. And, fucking loved it. The thing is, it's funny because when you do those captain's calls, there's always one little shitty non-rate, like, hey, when do we get our sea pay? We're in the Navy, and it's like, and we're just like, and it's funny too because it becomes a joke. Like, after you're in for like 2 or 3 years, because your first couple of years you're like, how come we don't get sea pay? Also, but you just know that question. Like, the next time there's a captain's call, you just know like the 4th non-rate is going to be like, when do we get sea pay? And,
did you guys have your own versions of hazing? Like we had a BT punch, which was a boiler technician punch.
Oh,
and
man.
You tell the new seaman, go on the ship and go down and get a BT punch, which
I would never say I was into any of that. I have no idea how that works, but I've heard stories. I've never personally dabbled in the hazing thing, but I've heard.
Oh, for sure.
I've heard stories like there are builder punches, you know, to go get a builder punch because we're doing this stuff. Concrete form stretchers, form benders, pipe stretchers, bags of steam. And we're checking the exhaust fumes, so please go collect as much exhaust from these Humvees as possible. You supposedly see people walking around with big bags full of just fucking air and or diesel smoke. You know, and then it's just like some poor little bastards walking around. I'm like, God damn, they're really bored in Alpha Company today because there's some little poor bastard walking around with a fucking bag of black smoke. You know, and like, Jesus. You know, like they really don't have much work to do. Which that's
you'll get some blinker fluid for the truck. Get some blinker fluid. Yeah, blinker fluid, all kinds of good shit. I remember one time they sent me to get a bubble repair kit, and I went and I took a nap. And I took a nap. I'm like, fuck that. You know? So did you, here's a question about Seabees. Like, did you have your version? What was like a salty Seabee? In other words, we call them salty by the sea, but what was like were you guys like a grimy Seabee? I mean, what's the translation here? You know?
Salty bastard, crusty ass, old Seabee, you know, that kind of shit, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So being a Seabee was kind of like being a mixture of multitude of different forces. It's kind of like Army engineer or something like combat engineers or something like that. Or am I wrong on that?
No, you're very much right. The thing is like, and you know, and I'm not going to diss any combat engineers. God bless them for what they do, but there's a difference between what they do and us. Like, you know, and fuck, man, those guys got to have balls, you know. So I admire the shit. I'm saying nice things before I say bad things. I admire the shit about the combat engineers because those fuckers go after mines sometimes. You know what I'm saying? They go find mines and then they hit up the EOD and you know stuff like that. So that they kind of got a pretty burly job, but the construction's lacking. You know, like for Seabees, we're the only branch that has to. We have to have it to code. You know what I mean? Like we have to have it to code. Like whatever it is, like out of California International
OSHA.
Yeah, we gotta do shit under OSHA, all that other stuff. I mean, there's expedient shit where you gotta get it done or somebody might die. That's a whole other story.
Right. So you guys build more finished permanent projects, and they're building makeshift like mobile kind of things, right?
Definitely. Yeah,
okay.
They're mostly there for expedient purposes, you know.
That's totally different than this gig, but that's cool. So, you came in. What year did you come in? What year did you join?
1996. I went in DEP in 1995. I was a welder. In Vanguard Vocational Center. It's a fucking boat tech school in Ohio. I was doing how long of this do you want me to go into? Like
well, no, it's we want to get to know the real cool. You, man.
So like
tell me your timeline.
Okay, cool. Because like I was I wanted to trade. My grandpa Brian, God bless him, he was a World War II guy. He was a gunner's mate back in, you know, fucking the Philippines. I'd always hear cool stories from him, man. Like how, and scary ass stories, you know. He was like, one time a fucking a torpedo, like he seen this fucking torpedo coming at him, dude. And it went under the boat and it went to the other boat and just fucking annihilated the boat beside him. You know what I mean? Like behind him. You know, it's just like, how fucking scary is that shit? And they were talking about shooting at kamikaze and, you know, and he'd have all these like, pretty cool, like fucking sea stories. And then, you know, that was when I was young. And then I was like, you know, he was always like, you need a trade. You need a trade. And he was like the most upfront, like face value kind of guy. And I wanted to have that, you know, so I kind of imitated a lot of things he did, his work ethic. He always busted his ass. He always had like a second job. Like, and even when he retired, he still worked at the golf course and painted houses and shit just because he liked to do things. And I think I need to get back into his habits. I'm like retired and fat and not doing anything except playing Xbox and like working at the radio station now. Anyway,
it'll come around when you're ready, I think.
Yeah.
You just want to take when you get out after having to show up for muster every day and read the POD. Do you guys have PODs too, where you read the plan of the day and all that?
You're supposed to. I'm
throwing this in, but
that's like one of those weird things where it's like, it's those knee-jerk reactions for like 2 months. Everybody signs them every fucking day. It's a big thing, and then you just kind of forget, and you're like, oh, that's right, we got those things. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, you get out of the military, and the first thing you want to do, this has happened to me too, back in '93, was you get out, and I quit my first 4 or 5 jobs because I could.
Yeah.
Because when I was on the ship, you had to show up every day. You couldn't call it in, otherwise you were AWOL.
Right.
You can call in and say, I have the flu. They go, nope. You need to come to the ship. The corpsman has to evaluate you. And the corpsman would have higher standards than you would for what they consider sick.
Yeah.
So a lot of times you weren't that sick. You were back to work.
For duty bullshit, you know what I'm saying? So like, you gotta be fit for duty.
Yeah, it's your temperature's only 99.
Yeah.
That's it. That's not enough. No bed rest for you.
Right.
And, there was no peace on the ship because you'd be in your rack and everybody's like getting the berthing of where we would live, ready for inspection because there was inspection before lunch every day.
Right.
And, if you're in there, everyone's making noise. Hey man, what are you doing in there? Just pushing on you all day. Can't really get any rest that way,
Yeah,
kind of funny. But, I was just saying that you would probably quit a job or two or get a little lackadaisical because you deserve it, man. I mean, you did a long marathon, a little bit of,
Well, I always had like 3 or 4 jobs while I was in too, and that's like going back to the Grandpa Brian thing, man. Like, he was the shit, you know what I mean? And I kind of copied that. I took a trade. He's like, you need a trade, especially in these days. I'm from Ohio, the Midwest, And
hard working,
And it's big fucking, big on construction, big on factory work, big on industrial work, or it used to be more industrial, but now it's, it's a lot of hands-on work, So
for sure. I mean,
I took a gig at Vanguard for welding, my junior year of high school. And, so my side job was selling acid and, welding and working at a fast food restaurant. And then I started working at a factory, for job placement, like my senior year. And I'm like, dude, fuck this, and no, there's factory jobs that are good with good benefits and stuff like that. I was working at a scab shit labor job, making the anchors for mobile homes. My cousin Ryan, he works at a kick-ass factory. They take good care of his family, and he loves what he does, but there's also shitty fucking, shitty jobs out there too. And I'm like, fuck, I do not want to do this the rest of my life. And, I was hanging out with my grandpa one time. He's like, you ever thought about the Navy? And I was like, I don't know. He's like, I'm glad I did it. He wasn't pressuring me, dude. He wasn't like pushing it on me like, oh, you really should do this, blah, blah, blah. He was actually really, really cool about everything. And, my best friend got busted for acid, and then like, it just got really weird, and at this point, before that, I went to DEP, I signed up, and then one of my best friends, got busted like halfway through my senior year. And, in the back of my head, I'm like, thank God I'm getting the fuck out of this town, because. So
you feel the impending doom and motivation to move on.
Exactly, man. Because like, it's just sad because I just knew that there was a lot of trouble to be had there. And I didn't want to be a part of that, and it's very easy to get sucked into that undertow, which happened to be one of my favorite albums at the time. But anyways, so I did that. So summer 95, I pick a job and it's like, I just wanted a welding job. I go in, I'm like, hey, I really want to be an HT. My cousin Tony Ploop, he's a plumber now in Bellevue, Ohio, or fucking somewhere around Bellevue, Ohio. I think not Bascom, but that's irrelevant. But hey, look for Tony Ploop. He's a plumber if you guys need plumbing in Ohio. And, anyways,
Our second sponsor of the day. We're on fire.
We're on fire. We're on fire. What's that basketball game? You're on fire.
Yeah, I know that one.
So
next, it's going to be a car dealership. Big Bob Billy, come on, no down, low down, come on down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shouts out to the plumber. Yeah, go grab him if you need some plumbing.
Yeah. He like I said, he's in HT. He's got he's going to these C schools and stuff. And I'm like, fuck yeah, that's what I want to do. So when I was sitting down with the classifier, I was like, I want to be an HT. And she's like, well, I'm sorry, that job's filled up. And I'm like, all right, dude, that's cool. No worries. Then I'm just not going in. And my recruiter's like, no, you're going in, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, I'm not. They're like, well, how you getting home? I'm like, well, I call my dad, I guess. I don't know. Fuck. And
you're stuck at MEPS.
Yeah, I'm in fucking stuck in Cleveland MEPS. Nobody wants to be stuck in Cleveland. You know what I'm saying? Not even the Browns. That's why they left. You know, once upon a time. So anyways, they're like tracking me down the hallway. They're like, you said you wanted a welding job. I'm like, yeah. I was like, that's what I want. We got steelworker. And I'm like, you got steelworker? All right, cool. What's that? You know what I mean? And then it's land construction, and you know, it's basically being, you know, a welder on land, and they sold me that. And the cool thing is, what I didn't realize at the time is there's not always things that need to be welded, you know. So basically, the steelworker is like the bosun's mate of the Seabees, because as a steelworker, and there wasn't shit to be welded, usually we help out the builders lay block and do formwork and concrete and shit. But if that's covered, I learned how to run electrical. I could bend conduit better than anybody that was an electrician on my jobs, because it's like rebar but hollow. And I bent rebar all the time. These guys barely ever bent conduit, you know. So it was cool. It was a good teaching point and learning point, actually. Learn before teach, right? So it was
you
good
came
learning
a little pre-trained from your civilian experience. Right?
Then cool. I operated heavy equipment, you know. I operated dozers and graders and excavators and shit, just by not being an asshole, and then being inquisitive. Like, hey, dude, can I have it? 9 times out of 10, I'm having the good parties anyway, so a lot of people were cool to me by default. So that was always really super cool, man. And so 90, yeah. So I left 96. And went to Gulfport, Mississippi for year A school, and that was okay. It was kind of humid.
Let me interrupt for a sec.
Sure.
Where'd you go to boot camp at?
Oh, there's only one. So by the time I went in, there's only one place, Great Lakes.
Really? So okay? I didn't know they narrowed it down. Yeah, it had gotten out. But
yeah, I think Clinton shut them down in '94, maybe. I'm not exactly sure, but it was his administration that did that. Because there was 3, I believe, like one in San Diego or San Francisco or something. There's one in Florida, one in California.
San Diego, Orlando, and Great Lakes were the boot camps. Yeah, those were. Yeah,
so you got both Disneylands and the fucking frozen tundra. So they shut down the Disneylands, and then they go to the tundra.
That's where I went to boot camp. Did you go in the winter by chance?
No, I'm just making fun of the cold air because it's like the same as where I grew up. You know what I mean? But no. I actually went in July. I found out what trench ass was by marching 5 million miles every day.
That place gets humid in the summer. I was there in the winter. It was freezing, below sub-zero wind chill factor, -30. It was gnarly, man.
If you look at Lake Erie, if you follow Michigan, the right hand side of Michigan, you go straight down and you follow where the end of Lake Erie is. There's a town called Port Clinton, and you go straight below that, Fremont, where I grew up. So I'm used to that. That's the same climate as Chicago. You know what I mean? So
and no wonder you love hockey.
Yeah, goddamn right, man. Hockey's my life. Matter of fact, I got a controller in my hand playing NHL 18.
I was going to ask you, when you're in boot camp, this is just the thought I had while we were talking. When you're in boot camp, you know that you're going to the Seabees and you're there with guys that are going to the ship. How did that feel like? We're in the same thing, but a little different. I mean, what was your mindset on that or looking back on it?
Well, it's kind of like I really didn't understand the whole thing. I did have an RDC tell me that I was a Marine on a light and limited duty shit, which that's pretty true. so and then you guys did the Marlin spike and shit. I didn't go to that. I stayed compartment watch because I was a Seabee. And then there's another guy. I forget his name. Nice dude. He was a UT and I was an utilities man and I was an SW, which is a steel worker. And that's what I did. You know what I'm saying? I stayed back, while everybody did the Marlin spike bullshit.
So they separated you guys off. Well,
not really.
Okay, so you're talking like
it was just like when there were specific ship events, like that one specifically.
That's what about shipboard firefighting? Shipboard firefighting.
Yeah, I still went to the firefighting stuff, and I went to the only thing I was segregated from was the Marlin spike because they're like, you're never going to need this, which is like
it's irrelevant.
For the most part, it's true. I never did need to know that, but on my rating exam, I have block and tackle. Like steelworkers are also known as the riggers. You know what I mean? So like when you're doing heavy, ship to shore bullshit, we're also the guys that are doing the rigging and all that with as well as the equipment operators. So it would have helped me out probably for my third class exam or something, but other than that, I'm good.
That's pretty interesting. So Mississippi, I had a kid on here that went to Mississippi. I'm just going to throw this in there just, and then I'll let you roll because you're good at this shit. But I had my,
I get long-winded, man. Just let me know. I'll be like,
that's okay. So do I, and I'll, we make a good podcast together. My one of the guys I interviewed went there for yeoman school, and his story we call, and a different part of Mississippi, I guess.
Yeah,
but
it's Meridian.
He was telling me about the girls that were trying to get married up to sailors and how he had got set up, and this girl beat herself up and called the SP on him and everything in the shore patrol, and it was graduation day, and he got out of it. Finally, he didn't do anything, but. I was like, was it like that down there? Like sailors were a commodity when you went to school down there?
Yeah, no. I mean, I never really dealt with it. I was only there for A school. And, so that part of it, you're on, not liberty risk, but, you're on, I forget what do you call it. It's not liberty risk, but you're basically on like your fucking,
limited liberty or something.
Yeah,
whatever
you got different phases, liberty phase, bullshit, your liberty cards and all that. And plus I had a high school sweetheart. Which that was dumb. I mean, probably the coolest chick I've ever met in my life. I'll still say it to the day I die. But having a high school sweetheart in boot camps in A school is really fucking stupid. I really hung out with friends.
This helps a young sailor. This is to help young sailors. Go ahead,
dude. Fucking drop that bitch, bro. You know what I'm saying? There's so much pussy out there, and love her. Set her free. She'll come back if she loves you too. That's how it works, right?
Well, it's loaded. I mean, there's guys 19 with a girl that got pregnant going in to support the family.
That's how it works, usually, right?
Well, the divorce rates in the Navy are extremely high. You're talking to one of them. We know this. You're going to be deployed somewhere else, and fidelity has limitations.
Well, when you're young, you really don't know your shit, dude. We're living like these longer ass lives. We're like 60, 80 years old now. From 60 to 80-year-old lives, and you're going to pick somebody out, and like by the time you're 16, 17, 18 years old, and you're going to think that you're with this person forever. I mean, stick together, but don't get married so young, man.
You don't know who you're going to be when you grow up is the truth. I mean, really. Those are the formulating years.
Like when you're actually like in charge of shit and you're actually doing adult things, you're no longer just being a kid. And a lot of people, like, I forget where I heard it, but the truth is this, man, is girls like guys to change. Guys want girls to stay the same. And I think that's the truth. You know what I mean? Like, we always want our high school sweetheart to still be that same chick that loves to give a lot of head. And we all know they stopped doing that after wedding. But, no, I mean, that's just joking. But in all seriousness, I mean, as far as like, girls want you to be like, oh, I want him to change and be more responsible. I want to turn the asshole into a nice guy, which usually doesn't work out.
No, but I mean, I think you spend your time through the Navy. Like not too long ago, I was talking to you and you're like, I got to see my buddy. He just broke up with his girl. And I'm yeah. That's a common thing. Like, you go take care of Billy.
Well, it's a divorce, man. He just did a couple years they were together and shit. And she just fucking started fucking some camera dude or some weird shit. I don't know. And it's funny too, because like, I did this shit 20 years, and I was in like 5 battalions, you count the fibs, and you just meet so many people, and then it's like trying to pick kids, man. Like, there's so many people you serve with, and they're all just like, you love them like a brother or a sister, and then you can't say, I like this one's my best friend. Maybe this was my best friend from 99 to 02, but there's so many people you run into throughout your career. They're just awesome,
Yeah, it's a trip, man. I mean, I was only in for 6 years, but I grew up on a military base, so I'd seen the Army side of it.
Well, I'm sure you've probably seen a lot of like gals go from one guy to, to like she's with a master sergeant one day, she's with a fucking E5 the next, she's hopping to an E4 the next day, and then she's got a kid by 3 different dudes, and you see that every once in a while too, man.
There was a lot of trippy things I saw, man. It's like, geez, the Army guys, they'd have their rough times, but Navy, we'd go to sea for six months in the ships, and you would get deployed for a year or two, and you can't like, oh, sorry, there's no little housing off base for me to have a wife or a girlfriend here in many cases, not all, but many. Like if you're in a war theater or you're somewhere like that's pretty gnarly, it's not really conducive. So, like, well, I got to put my life on hold. And there's some guys I talked to that were in the Navy 20 years plus. And they get out and they're like, who's this gal I'm married to? Because they've been deployed 18 plus years.
Right.
And this was a girl that they met at an EM club in 1991. They had a hot night dancing to, Depeche Mode. And all of a sudden, like, who are you?
Well, I mean, that's one side of it. And also another part too is like where you gotta like, and this isn't trying to sound sexist, but it might come across that way. And I apologize if it does. But you might have a girl you're with, and she's an awesome chick. She's just used to having the dude be more assertive and do everything and take the car to get the tires changed, and and she's used to you handling the bills, and she's so used to you doing all this other shit or whatever it is, and you leave, and she's like, I got to do the man shit now. You know what I'm saying? And then has this newfound independence where she's lived without you. She knows she doesn't need you. And
the need versus want, it changes from need to want, right?
And it just changes the dynamic of that relationship where it becomes like a partner thing to like, I feel like I should be doing this, and they feel like they should be doing this.
That's an interesting outlook. I like where you're going with that, because it's true,
and it just sometimes just sends that no fault. I mean, we talk about all these infidelity stories, and that happens a lot too, but a lot of times and it's hard because as a military person, couples it's no longer a person, like a couple is a couple. So like when you'll have that, well, me and so-and-so are splitting up, she's friends with your girl, you're friends with the dude, you might be stationed with the dude, those two still hang out, and like, fuck. It's like, please don't pick between the two of you guys. We've been together for like 8-10 years, so.
No, it's so true. But the interesting thing is that if you and I had been civilians, and let's say we worked at Google and we met our wife at Google, we would never be torn apart. I mean, like I might, with my Google imaginary Google wife, I go to Japan for a week for training, and then maybe to Europe for a 2-week thing. That's the most of a test that we'll ever have to face, and we'll be FaceTiming, and we make a lot of money. But when you're trying to get by, because you're not making a lot of money initially in the military, and you're married to somebody and you're both kind of scraping by, you kind of like a good upper middle medium life, not middle class, but a medium life.
Right.
And when things get tested like war and fear, and, here's this pretty little young thing walking around the base, and all these big strapping studs are walking by. How you doing? Oh, where's Reggie? Oh, he's deployed. Oh, hey, if you need any help with your groceries, and I was a master at arms, man. One of the funniest calls I ever got. I wasn't a full time, but I was duty master at arms. So I was a signalman, but I would be master at arms in port and on the team. And, every 4th day I would have to be 24 hours and all that kind of thing. So the funniest call I ever got was, Dempsey, quarterdeck. What's that? We need you to go get this, prisoner. We need to go pick up this guy. What did he do? He committed adultery. I'm like, oh, really? And the guy
Right.
telling it to me probably had himself at some point in his life. And I'm going, oh, okay. That's kind of funny. What was it? Oh, Seaman was messing around with the chief's wife. I'm like, or was the chief's wife messing around with the young Seaman is the question. You know what I mean? And
Right.
I just felt conflicted. I'm like, oh, okay. I just went and grabbed him. You know what I mean? But I was like, that was one of the, I thought, funniest calls I got. And that's just the life. You're moving and nothing is certain. You're living in the moment. But I do know some people that have been very happily married that actually met on my ship. In the first 3 years of my term in the Navy, we were the man's Navy, all man, hardcore, dirty mags everywhere, cussing, smoking, yelling, chasing ladies out in port, right? And then the next 3 years, we had 50 something women come on board, and one of them's now an admiral, like a 4-star admiral. But, a lot of those women that came on board, that presented a new challenge of integration with, under 350 men. So just imagine when you use the number value in any place you get stationed, there's 3 girls and 200 guys. Well, those girls are a lot better looking than they used to be. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I respected my female shipmates. They worked hard, you know, and it was, I gotta say, it was probably hard for them to come on board, the beginning of the high testosterone alpha male ship. You know what I mean? That wasn't always a tender at that time. Go ahead.
No, I get it. Cause like when I checked into, Naval Mobile Construction Battalion 5, they were in the middle of a 96-97 deployment. And,
Right.
2 years before that was when the first time females were allowed in a mobile battalion. So things were just shifting, you know?
Yeah.
Females were starting to be allowed into battalions, and, you know, it was just a big difference in mentality, you know?
Well, you had the crustier older guys that got to be, not necessarily that they were sexist by nature, but that's what they were brought up in the military, kind of.
Well, the thing is there's a lot of, and nothing against females. They're just, you know, you get people that are set in their ways, and that's the good thing about how the military adapts to how society works. You know, it's just like you're no longer allowed to like not have your shirt on while you're outdoors working, you know, construction or, you know, because back in the day, your deployment, you get hot and sweaty, you're like, fuck, I'm taking my shirt off, you know, that kind of stuff. And then certain things you can't say with certain words because they're sexist, you know, and
sexual harassment was the big one. Sexual harassment.
And, you know, and it sucks because there's like onesie twosie people that fuck things up for everybody else, you know, and
right.
You know,
things are getting along and Billy the Goonbird, you know, steps out of line.
It's in place because it needs to be there at times, but at the same time, some people use it as their advantage, you know, and it kind of sucks when they use any kind of like, I don't know. I don't want to say any kind of like sexual harassment cards or something like that, but there are some people that will falsely accuse people of things for personal benefit. And the thing is when somebody gets found out that they didn't do it, they're still thought of in that category of, hey, so-and-so like does whatever. You know what I'm saying? Which that's very unfortunate.
They use it as a gold pass. Like I will intimidate you with the threat of your name and your respect by saying that you harass me. Well, that happened very, you know, I know this. A lot of the women on my ship were they were down. They were like sailors. They're like, you know, they didn't respect that.
Dude,
which was
most
cool.
of them are super fucking cool. Like, I'd say a majority of the females in the service are fucking badass, dude. You know, and you know, like, I still, like, I call it, there's a senior chief. She's a senior chief now, but we came in together, and she's still in. I just retired, but she's a fucking sweetheart, and I'd bounce off, you know, things off her and vice versa. Or like when she was going through her transition, or what do you call it, induction, or the fuck is it? It used to be called initiation. You know, I would just talk to her because I didn't make it yet. You know what I mean? Like I was an SW1 while she was going through that shit. I was first class, and I would just talk to her and be like, Christy, you know, I fucking love you, kid, you know, or whatever. I just, you know. It's like, that's the first time I heard my name and I don't know how long. You know, my first name, you know. You know, no matter what, always going to be a senior chief, but no matter what, she'll always be, you know, my sister Christy, you know, until the day she dies. Because of that shit.
it was a different Navy before I joined, and I got to see the end of it, like I said. And, you know, when I grew up overseas, I played football. I may have mentioned this before or not, but I played football in high school against the Navy bases. So we lived in northern Italy in Vicenza on the Airborne Ranger Army infantry type base. And we would go and play, Sigonella, Sicily. They had a Navy base down there, and we used to play in Naples too. And on the Navy base, on the Army base, they were all squared away and, you know, running and, you know, doing cadence and all that stuff, super fit. I go down to the Navy base, and it was like a scene out of you know, something out of Hustler, like some disco zone, you know, you just heard the chicka bow wow music in the background. And, over all the barracks, I was talking to my former bosun Johnson about this. All the barracks had beer machines. Like, you know, so when we would go play high school.
Okinawa was like that. My first deployment. It's not like that now, but they used to have Budweisers in the fucking bottom of the Pepsi machine. I just thought that was cool.
Well, I did in high school too, because nobody was guarding the vending machine.
Oh,
they hadn't thought that far ahead, right? So we were playing the opposing team, sleeping in the gym, fly down to, you know, Sicily, and we would do ninja stealth, with a huge duffel bag or something. Okay, go get some beers. Right. You know, pumping quarters in there. The Navy was, like, yeah, it's okay. It's what men do kind of way back then. This was in the 80s. But, yeah,
this kind of goes back to the whole, like being different branches and stuff like that question you talked about, kind of like a callback to that question earlier, is like we were in Okinawa, and it was cool because in Okinawa, if you have anybody that's been there, they understand that, you know, you have probably one of the most diverse places for military. You got probably, I think it's the biggest Air Force base. I think Kadena is the biggest Air Force base in the world.
I think so.
And you got a strong concentration of Marines, you know, so, you know, and we work on all the bases. So, yeah, my last deployment, I was facilities manager. I was helping out Hanson, Schwab, Fatima, Lester, Courtney, blah, blah, blah. I was bouncing around all these Marine Corps bases. But my first deployment was at the Iwasi Seawall there. The second deployment, I was there before I went to Korea. I was on an Air Force base, you know, and the Air Force is a little bit more clean and prim and proper and stuff like that. And God bless them.
They're like they're the preppies of the military, in my opinion.
And they are. They're held to a higher mental standard, and like the Marine Corps is held to a higher physical standard. You know what I mean? So you have a lot of, I guess back then we didn't call them metros, you know, metrosexual type people, but they have that kind of mentality, you know, on an Air Force base. And the Marine Corps base is like more like alpha male central because there's so many young guys. And this is pre 9/11 too. So, but being a Seabee, we just bounced from every place, and it was like kind of like I seriously felt like you know that movie Armageddon? Do you remember that movie? I felt like the guys that were going to blow up the asteroid, you know, and in the Air Force, it felt like NASA, you know, because they're all clean, and then you got this roughneck motherfuckers walking through there just dirtying everything up, talking shit, being loud. And doing our construction, you know, and then it's like, we're going to blow up a fucking asteroid in space. Yay.
Well, you know, it's different. I'm glad I almost joined the Air Force. I was going into a whole different field because I worked at a TV station in broadcasting in Italy in high school. Yeah. And they made us do that like for, I think it was like 10th through 12th grade. I did that. So I learned about all that stuff, and I figured I'd just go in and do that in the, you know, Air Force. But then they asked me if I had smoked weed, and I said, yeah, a couple times. And it was one more time too many than they could handle. And, so I ended up in the Navy, and then I was thinking of going JO, but, man, I don't know what happened with that. I ended up becoming a signalman. And, I love my job, man. It's a really cool rate. They get rid of it in 2003, but back to the different bases. I grew up around the Air Force people. It's harder to make rank in the Air Force than it is in the Navy. I mean,
definitely.
It really is. It's a slow advancement progress. Army can be pretty quick. A lot of
people don't. I mean, it's really a cush job, and you know, and not to take away. I keep saying a lot, but not to take away from anything anybody does in the Air Force. But their jobs really fucking chill, and you're in some really nice places to take good care of your family. You know, they fucking MWR is like the number one thing for them. You know what I mean? Like, they know how to do it as far as people wise taken care of. You know, they put people first. Navy, Marine Corps, and definitely Army puts mission first. You know, and that's why when you're dealing with these rates or MOSs or whatever, I think it's AOS or something Air Force calls it. I forget, but those are somebody's got to die or get out so you can get advanced because nobody wants to go anywhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're not enlisting anybody at this rate. I get PNA'd twice for E5, you know, so I passed not advanced because they weren't advancing anybody. I'm like, as a signalman, I'm going like, what do I have to do? Like, you know, tackle a submarine and divert it from the ship, how to jump off the side, off the water, and then, you know, take a bullet for an admiral as his duty driver. I mean, what's it going to take? You know what I mean? So I was like, I'm out of here. And, you know, it was good enough. I could have made it earlier, but I wasn't trying to make rank for my first 3 years. First 3 years, I was partying, man. I didn't really care, you know, and after that, I decided to become a sailor. At least that's how I look at it.
Yeah, man.
But you
did more than most people did anyway. You know what I'm saying? So.
Oh, for sure. But for you, like, did you make advancement pretty quickly to petty officer because you went through Seabees, or?
Yeah, I did. I actually I made second class on restriction. That's a funny story. But you know, I made third my first time up, and I was so confident I was going to do it because I knew my shit. I blew away the test. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, I think that I had the highest test score or something like that, but. My evals, you know, that's the other thing that's hard, but there was only like, I don't know, there's like, I think it was 15% advancement, and I scored in the top. I think I had like probably one of the best tests, but I barely made the cutoff because of my time in service and all that other bullshit, because back then they still cared if your time in service, you know? And then, it took me a little bit of time to make second, which that's fine. I made second, and then took me, and then I made third, like my first class in 10 years. And then I just stayed there the rest of my career. You know, like, they were downsizing. We, were at 8 battalions, and we went up to 9 battalions, and they downsized to 6, you know, and then you got a rate that's a closed rate. There's only like, I think 600 people in the steelworker rating. And,
wow.
Yeah, like my entire rate, only 600 people. And they're getting rid of like, 3 battalions. So you went from 9 to 6 battalions, and they started downsizing a lot of places. And my heart was, still with the troops, but not so much with some other things, you know, like, I was starting to get more. I'm not saying I lost heart in the military. I kept the same amount, but I also had heart in another direction with comedy, you know, doing stand up. So, and that was it. I'm like, I wanted to make it, you know, for like the longest time. I really wanted to make SWC, and it didn't work out. And then my last couple times, I didn't even really try. And my last exam, I didn't even show up for because I knew I was going to retire. You know what I mean? Like, I already my mind was set. I'm like, I'm doing 20 and I'm getting out. And if people have a problem with like somebody doing 20 and getting out, well, then that's not my fault. You know what I'm saying? It's whatever.
No, there's so many variables to consider how you take your time in the Navy, right?
Right.
Like, you know, I knew people that spent the majority of their time at sea, and they loved it. And the other half of us were like, I want some shore time. You know, even though we didn't realize how awesome the sea was, now I go to the ocean as much as I can because I love it.
It's like, you bitch about those. Yeah, you bitch about deployments, and the next thing you know, it's like, oh, this is actually a pretty cool fucking gig, man.
Yeah, I mean, if you come out, you civilianize like you did in a lot of your podcasts, which I listen to all of them, by the way, as a true podcast fan. And, you know, I got to say that you talk about civilianization, which for me, I'm starting my podcast almost 25 years later, and it's about 24 years later since I get out. And you were in for 20 years. So you making that adjustment was far different than mine. And I have to look back at it. And I put the military to sleep for about 20 years. Like, I didn't even think about it. Like, I'd never even been there. I was so busy being a civilian.
Right.
And then, you know, one day I go to the VA, and, you know, I'd get out on medical, and I had a bunch of ailments, and, you know, they took care of me. And all of a sudden I fell back in love with the military again. And I started looking up old friends. And then by virtue of doing that, did I realize how much I'd been missing. I ran into a couple shipmates that had hung together since 1991 or so, or 89. They've known each other, and they've hung together all these years, each other's birthdays, kids' birthdays. And I go, how much better would it have been if I had had my shipmates with me this whole time? Yeah, because the first thing I was thinking is like, I got to run out and become a civilian. Yeah, civilian. Yeah, they'll understand me. No, they don't. You just left the biggest cult you were ever a member of. It's your culture, man. You know, you're a military guy. It's in your blood now. You know what I mean?
No, I totally get it. I mean, that's like, I go to Port Hueneme a lot just to feel fucking sane. You know, like that was one of my bases. I hang out in San Diego a lot too. You know, and when I was in the Amphibious Battalion in Virginia Beach, there's sister battalions in Gulfport. I mean, let me take that back. When I was in Virginia Beach, there's sister battalions in San Diego on Coronado Island, you know, so I go down to Coronado and just hang out with some old bees and then a couple of the frogmen and stuff I've known over the years too. You know, mostly Seabees, and it's really, really good and refreshing to feel like you're around regular people, because I live in Hollywood, and like how this is really like a whole nother world, like where I'm at right now. It's a whole nother, Hollywood's not right, dude. You know what I'm saying? It's not.
I fell in love with it the first few times I went down there. I was talking movie deals with people for someone else. And, you know, just like any pitch, you probably need 100 to get 2 or 3 to stick. And this is just the first one. I'm a great, you know, ex-salesperson, but it didn't, you know, I was down there dealing with it. Everybody was so nice. I'm like, why are they so nice? Oh, they want to see what you can do for them. And you start realizing real quickly what the deal is. And I'm like, this is the most lovely set of smoke and mirrors I've ever seen. Yeah. You know, what's real is what I get when I leave that valley. You know, or, you know, I mean, I've been around the bodybuilding culture of Venice Beach, saw the top of that food chain, you know, been around, you know, the fighting world, and don't really, you know, I listen to a lot of comedy podcasts and people that you know and see every day. And, you know, the store has made it's become its own series on the internet of all the, you know, different comedians that go there and have their own podcasts. So you're kind of filled in with that life.
Oh, man. One of my favorites, speaking of the store, man, is Brian Holtzman. Did you hear the one with Brian Holtzman?
On yours, I got to listen to that one again. Yeah, probably.
Brian Holtzman is like by far one of my favorite like comics to see, and nobody knows who the fuck he is because he's a live guy. He's a guy you got to see live. You know, I mean, you can fucking find him and see his 5 minutes on YouTube or some shit like that, but nothing like seeing this guy live and on fire. He's hilarious. He's great. But anyways, I do a good interview with him on the thing, and he talks about getting in trouble in Kadena and in Korea, and I was in both places. I was in Okinawa, I was in Korea. So I know I'm physically, not physically, but I am mentally like imagining all this shit he's doing, you know, and like all these places. I know exactly where he's talking about, where he's getting in trouble, and you know, I guess to plug the Brian Holtzman episode, it's really fucking funny, man.
Well, then everybody should listen to that one on the Josho's radio show. Tune into
Josho's
Brian Holtzman edition. Yeah. Definitely listen to that one.
Sorry, you know, I go on the tangent, but dude, that fucking guy is a shit.
That's cool. I mean, I've had people ask me, what other sides of the Navy can you show me? And, well, here we are. We're here with the Seabees. So now you can hear some Seabee stories, because there's civilians that listen to it, or their kids or family. Well, and, they want to see what we did, because we had an interesting life, you know?
Well, here's the thing. This is where I can tell you about good and bad things on Seabees. I mean, if people don't understand Seabees, it's construction battalions, and, you know, but it's spelled SCABEE, you know, Seabee. But, the good part, I remember, and good and bad parts is like, it's weird because I came in 96 pre 9/11, you know, and then, so I was partying. It was like Animal House, you know, it was really like living in an Animal House in Okinawa. It was a lot of fun. It was nuts. And then, you know, on my first 2 deployments, it was just partying and, you know, working. And I did some dumb shit. I got into a few fucking fist fights and scuffles and whatever, you know, and that was fine. And then 9/11 happened and shit got real. And, you know, I remember like thinking as a junior troop, why do I need to know this stuff? We're never going to go to war. You know, and that was the actual attitude everybody had pre 9/11 because we really didn't. It's hard to comprehend the mentality that we had back then. You know, it's like, why are we doing this? We should be spending more time worrying about construction trades than we do about guns and stuff. And then it really fucking flip-flopped, you know. Next thing you know, we're sending battalions to Afghanistan and the Philippines. A lot of people don't know that we're hunting down Al-Qaeda cells in the Philippines. Like, and that was another thing too. It's like a forgotten part of the war. But,
yeah.
You know, and here's the thing, like the Navy SEALs, everybody knows what a SEAL is. This is actually shit I say on stage, but I'll make it like palatable for a podcast. Is that everybody knows Navy SEALs, they're badasses. They're the fucking rock stars, dude. They get book deals and cool guns. You know, they're surfers with machine guns. And that's what they are, dude. And then you got us. We're the fucking roadie. So every time a rock band goes somewhere, the roadie has to build the stage, which we build the camps, you know, and you know, so you got like guys that were just, you know, beer drinking, partying, hammer banging motherfuckers. Now we're going to some bad places and shit's getting real. And the unfortunate thing about Seabees was they tried prior to 9/11. This is like as 9/11 was happening. They're trying to elongate the home ports because it was 7 in, 7 out, and they're trying to go 6 and 12. But war happened during this whole time frame. You know what I mean? So then, you know, the battalion, it got shifted once again, you know, and next thing you know, you have some guys that are doing a lot of deploying, and you have some guys that aren't doing that much. But the problem's this. Our motto is build and fight, but we started leaving the building aspect, you know, and going into the fighting aspect. The Navy and Air Force really didn't have a whole lot of fucking pokers in the fire. You know what I'm saying? We had our team guys, obviously, SEALs or frogmen, whatever you want to call them. You know, you had SWIC. Yeah, SWIC guys are with the frog. If people don't know what SWIC guys are really like, you know, SWIC guys are, I mean, it's easy to be like, oh, they're the bitches for the SEALs, but actually they do some pretty hardcore shit, man. They don't get enough credit. They get dissed more than they actually get love. And, there's some dudes, you know.
They are the real deal.
Yeah, it's easy to make fun of them. They're low-hanging fruit, and they're probably all fruits. Just kidding. They're good dudes. But yeah, you got those guys. They're out there doing their shit. But as far as, you know, the Navy on the boots on the ground, they're like, what can we do to have more representation in these countries? So that's when Seabees, we go from being, you know, hammer bangers to being drivers and operators and, you know, so we start taking over a lot of the convoys, you know, so we're bouncing between Al Assad, and we're split all over the Iraq. You know, I could say some of the stuff I can say is, you know, we were in Fallujah, Al Assad, and Ramadi and stuff. I mean, people know that, you know, and that's like you know, we're all over everywhere else too, doing operations, whatever needs to be done. And then it's just like, hey, have Seabees take people there. So, you know, whoever's sitting around the Pentagon or wherever they are, they can say, yeah, we got these guys and they're busting their ass and they're out there doing cool things. And they can say, look, man, my guys are out there doing shit too. Which, you know, cool. Now we're in the fight. But the problem with that is like you fast forward to another deployment the next year and you go, say, like you send people to Iraq and you send people to Guam. Now I have a builder, second class. I have an E5 builder who, has no fucking knowledge on how to build sidewalks, has no idea on how to do his job, you know, like his real job, like laying block and all that other stuff. But they're held
dissecting the job. Dissecting the job kind of, right?
They know how to fucking handle a 240 Bravo or a 50, but they have, you know, and do convoys, you know, and 9 lines and all that other shit. And they're fluent with that, and God bless them, they kick ass. But they have no clue on how to do their job. So when it comes time for this kick-ass second class to take a rating exam, he has no clue what a fucking bird's mouth is because he was actually out there busting his ass, doing convoys, spinning up his vehicle, you know, making sure his guys are taken care of and his gear is clean for the next day, you know. And it's a little bit different, you know, when you're underway versus when you're in home port, you know. So
you go from construction worker to soldier, basically. I mean, in layman's terms.
Yeah.
You guys were, prior to your deployment, prior to 9/11, you were this super badass construction worker, pride in your trade.
We had,
and a little bit of light backup in some. We'll go back to so people listening to podcasts can understand. But Seabees also get trained up in all the weapons handling, security drills, field maneuvers. And did you guys do any land nav or anything like that? Or
yeah, that's a big part of it. That's a big part of it. So like when you come in, you go through your A school, and at the end of your A school, you have like a 1 week training. Now it's about a month long, and it's cool. Now you learn all kinds of cool shit. But back then, pre 9/11, you just went through a week school of like, oh, this is a dummy grenade. It has the cap in it, and it goes bang. You know what I mean? And here's sticks. These are
like soldier diet light, right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Slim Fast Soldier meal.
Here's some combatives. We're going to do a running karate chop. No.
Okay, right?
I'm fucking with you. Yeah,
no, this is cool. It's kind of true. Use the Vulcan death grip when you guys get hand-to-hand combat. It's okay.
That's right. Everything, just kick them in the nuts. Kick them in the nuts. There you go. You're done. You're out of here. Here's your Krav Maga black belt. Get out of here.
Yeah. Before I forget, I want to get into the land nav thing because I'm glad you said that. Because when you get to battalion, you do like land navigation and shit like that. You did have to know how to do patrols. We do all these field exercises. They called FEXs back in the day. Now they're called FTX, field training exercise. And it's funny too because like you would like land navigation, you'd like have your you take your lensatic compass and you try to figure out all these points and get from point A to point B to point C to get back all the way around. And you do your overlays, and I don't know how many times, people would get lost, or they come back and they stepped on a snake or something crazy, man. It's just always fun. Oh, dude, just like that, because and you talk to if you talk to any Marines or any soldiers on this, and they start talking about it, but it's the truth, man. Ask them this, or them, if they're listening, they'll probably nod their head and laugh out loud. No map is right, dude. No fucking map, no topographical map is correct. There are fucking lakes and creeks that are either there or not there. Creeks, whatever you want to call them. They're either there or not there. Because whenever they do the fucking map, they got like all kinds of cool shit. And then later on, like, oh, we got to navigate around this pond. No, there's no fucking pond in Fort Hunter. Like, it was there when they drew the map back in 1942. Not fucking now, because it's like I got 4 extra checkpoints I got to go to now to go around a creek. It's not even fucking there now. Are you kidding me?
That's funny. That's some of your Ohioan accent right there. The crick. Yeah, that's all good.
I don't know. I hear creek, whatever the fuck. So I just say
I'm from the East Coast myself. I was born in New Hampshire, but I never grew up there, so I get the newscaster neutral dialogue. You know, but I got to say that's pretty interesting. So you guys get the land nav. So you, at different points in your training, in your time as a CB, we want to do room clearing, or we want to do this. You get more advanced classes.
Training, did room clearing. That was fun. We did a lot of that shit, and I was like. Like when I went to Iraq, if people like watch American Sniper or something like that, it's crazy because you'll see these guys that are working out and they're lifting weights and shit. There's a part where Chris Kyle's lifting weights. Like if this is a real life, actual real deal, like my steel shop made a lot of the weights that they're lifting in that movie. Like it was a real deal, real shit. Like we had a lot of, cool. Yeah, man, like I'd have downtime. But our downtime we just spent doing shit because it's like, what else do you do? So we're building fucking laptop shelves and dip bars and you name it. We're fucking just making it so we have something to do.
Sounds like you found a second business. You could go outfit all the CrossFit gyms in America.
That's true. I never really thought about that, man.
Whammy. True. Yeah, that's who you're talking to.
That's where it all came from, man.
But you want that's CrossFit, but you want the real, you want a battlefield outfit? Yeah, we do battlefield weights.
Yeah, man. We got some concrete, coffee cans and concrete,
You want the real stuff, the really real stuff?
Some fucking electrical tape, duct tape.
Duct tape, make some lifting gloves out of duct tape. But, you guys, you had like a PRT requirement. How often did you guys have PT on a regular? I mean, through your time in?
We still had the same. We had the same Navy requirements every 6 months. But the thing was, we PT'd Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. No exceptions, no excuses. You had to do it. That's us. And the only time that there was an exception was like maybe in some really bad combat zones. You really can't run around the camp or the fob or whatever you want to call it. The cop, the fob, whatever. You can't run around it, so you're not going to. But when you come back home and you're in Port Hueneme or Gulfport, Mississippi, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, you got PT Nazis out there fucking doing the Hail Hitler cadence, and you're going to sweat and you're going to bust your ass. And the thing is they don't fuck around with fat bodies anymore either, man. And it's like, if you're overweight, you're gone, dude. They don't fuck around. And,
yeah.
What hurt me was I had, and I'm not trying to sound bitter when I say this, but I was kind of pissed off because, like, I had a rotator cuff, I had a surgery on my shoulder, and then and I gained a few pounds. I was overweight, dude. Like, so when they taped me, or when they weighed and taped me, I was overweight. But the thing was, like the first time, I had a surgery, I didn't need it, but I could have had a waiver. You know what I mean? Like, and then like this time I needed a waiver, but cause I was overweight. I didn't get it and it counted against me a little bit. No big deal. I had to go to FEP, which means, you gotta fucking work out a couple times, extra times a week. No big deal. Like I said, that was fine. I was just kind of like, damn, and that's what really made me realize it scared the shit out of me, which I guess maybe they think we all need that in our career if we want to make it a career. And, that right there, I was like, oh, I'm not going to fuck this up. You know what I mean?
No, I was super fit. I came in chubby and they sent me to double PT in boot camp. And I was like, hey, this is a funny story for you. I'm like, oh, I want to be a Navy SEAL. The guy's like, yeah, great. Just go there. Yeah. He didn't tell me to put in 35 miles of road work a week or anything. You can't go from 0 to SEAL fit like that. So anyways, I show up to boot camp. I was a competitive swimmer, so this water was going to be easy. I was sweating the pull-ups because I hadn't really done any. So you can't just do them. Anyways, I go to boot camp. Halfway through, they let me go take the test. I killed the swim. I got 3 minutes left over. And then I get out to do the push-ups, and I'd practice all these other push-ups, and they wanted to do them differently and more modified and locked out. And they were putting their hand below my belt buckle. I'm like, never had a hand below my belt buckle before. So I'm busting out these push-ups. He goes, 1. All of a sudden I do like 9 push-ups. He goes, 2. I do another 10 push-ups, 3. I'm like, how am I going to get to 67 push-ups at this rate? So somewhere around 90, he's like, have a nice day.
Oh, yeah.
And I was, they were just probably looking at me like, what's this fat guy thinking? Yeah. But by the time I left boot camp, I had a 31-inch waist. I was super fit. I did the test over again in A school. I go, I could smoke this, but I'd met some girl and started partying. I'm like, later. I'll just go to my ship. And that's kind of like how it went for me. But when the EOD and SEAL guys come on our ship, I work out with them all the time. And I, just was able to satiate, make my ego happy by being able to say, yeah, I can do what they could do on that. But I never did their runs because we were underway. We were out at sea. So you're not going to run on the steel decks like that. But as far as the calisthenics, it was a benchmark.
It's funny you say that because when I didn't want to be a SEAL, but I wanted to be a Navy diver because I wanted to be an underwater welder. And
that would have been a great income, that job.
Yeah, dude, exactly. And I had a lot of shit set up for it, and then I fucked up my shoulder. Remember I was talking about my shoulder? Well, anyways, I fucked it up. And when we were in Puerto Rico, that's where I fucked it up in Honduras. I was on a debt there, but it was on the Puerto Rico deployment. And we had a lot of the SEALs. This was pre 9/11, but they were running around. They were holding coconuts in their hands and run all over the fucking Roosevelt roads, like Rosie Roads, and we were on Camp Mosscript, which is our own little Seabee camp. And we had a wall between us, a fence line between us, and met a lot of really cool SEALs and team guys and team support guys back there, and they were the ones who kind of helped me out with doing that because I had to get an EKG and I had to get all kinds of other tests done, and I had to talk to a dive physical guy, or I don't know what the fuck they call him, but I had to talk to these other people and make sure I was okay. But when it came down to doing it, I came back from Honduras, my shoulder was fucked. I'm like, God damn it, and and then by the time I was clear, I had my surgery and I waited my time, but I was ready to go. And then I had an awesome opportunity to be a crew leader, which is something I really wanted to do. And I was going with some good people. I'm like, yeah, I'll just wait. And that's one of the things too, I I tell a lot of the guys, and I still, like I said, I retired a year ago, so I still have a lot of troops I talk to that were my platoon, or at different times I was an instructor for them, and I tell them, look, if you got an idea to do something, don't wait, because that opportunity might close, or you might have a change of heart later. I don't say I regret it because I had a lot of cool things, but I have a lot of what ifs. You know what I'm saying? So I'm happy I went the path I did, but I still think, man, I wonder what that would have been like, So
I did too.
There's not like a lot of resentment, but there's a lot of, man, that would have been cool if I was a diver,
It's interesting. I mean, underwater welding pays like high six figures, like 150, 250, something crazy like that.
You don't even need to weld.
Just to show up. I mean, you want to pick a Navy career other than nuke or pilot that you can get out and make some bread. I mean, that's one of them, even more than a SEAL for that matter. I mean, being a SEAL and doing security, that's kind of dried up a little bit. They were giving away those $300,000 contractor jobs and they became 150. Now they're probably less than that. And, they're hiring other third world countries, mercs to go out there and do the job. So that whole landscape's changed, but, it's interesting because you get to taste the construction side, being around all kinds of different military. It's a pretty cool perspective to see what you did as a Seabee, man. I mean,
yeah, it's like, because a lot of people don't realize it. And also, like, the funny thing you're talking about, one of the hardest things is a lot of people don't know what Muse is.
Mm-hmm.
Muse program, like, it's basically generators. It's all electrical. You go to all these different places and, it's fucking nuts. When you get out, you can do like you see those big ass Cat diesel engines, or generators and stuff like that. They look basically like they could fit on a train car, and you fix them or you just call the people that need to fix them. One of the two. It's like your Maytag repairman. You go to these different places. You got to go to a school and you got to get like all kinds of schooling under your belt, like bachelor's degree in electrical engineering. You got to do it in a very short amount of time. And you go to these different places and you do that shit. Same with Seabees also do State Department work, which you go to different embassies, and that's another real cool gig. And I almost did that before I went recruiting to help my dad. My dad wasn't doing well, and I had my buddy Jimmy Redinger. He's a senior chief down in Gulfport, Mississippi. He was actually putting in good words for me to the State Department. I talked to the recruiter on the phone. Things were looking up. I was about ready to do all my bullshit for it, my NEATS modules, the electronic computer bullshit, and I was getting ready to go. But the problem was this. My dad started getting sick. I'm like, fuck, I'm going to go help my dad out or I'm getting out. So I lost that gig. But if I would have went, you go to you get paid an extra clothing allowance and you get a lot of money to wear, but you got to wear suit and ties, Red Wing boots, fucking you name it. You have like a bottomless credit card for shit if you need to fix things, whatever it might be. I mean, you're doing embassy duties, so you're basically there's senators that are in like Yokosuka, Japan, or I don't know. I'm just making words up as far as city wise. I don't know really anymore what cities are in, but you got all these different places that you got to go, and you got to build and do security doors, locksmithing, all that fun
safe
shit,
rooms.
Also, you got Camp David. I got a lot of friends that did the Camp David duty. You got to have a squeaky clean record, and you go there and you paint rocks, you blow leaves, you fix the presidential golf cart, and you fix bowling alleys because there's actually a bowling alley there, and there's a movie theater there, and they send you to the Brunswick school. They sent to how to fix bowling lanes. And, it's fucking nuts, dude. But yeah, it's like Seabees were like the best under the radar part of the military, in my opinion, because we do so much versatile shit. But talk to anybody who has pride in their department, they're going to say that they're the best too. So.
Well, you have a trade that can be used outside.
That was the big thing. Like, I wanted to get out, or I didn't plan on. I don't think anybody really. Most people don't plan on being in uniform as a career. You know what I mean? Like, I just was like, fuck, I want to get out of this town. I want to be a welder, and then after that, I want to, go to a steel shop in Detroit, because Detroit really wasn't on the downswing at that time. You know what I'm saying? Thank God, I didn't do that because I love that city. It's like one of my favorite places in the world. still, even downtrodden, it's not enough actually. But anyways,
that's pretty interesting. I mean, my trade was not usable to get out of the Navy with. I did semaphore, Morse code, ship spotting, friend or foe, all kinds of stuff like that. And when you get out, nobody needs you to wave flags around. They just text a message. They don't need any semaphore. Hey, say some words with flags. They don't. There may have been some merchant marine applications, some of the nautical stuff we learned. I mean, we learned how to shoot stuff with a sextant and a few things, some nautical grade stuff. But as you get out, you go, what am I going to do? At least you have a choice. And I don't know what I could have done. Maybe the police, because I'd been a master at arms. But, there was, when I went to the police jobs, when I get out as a civilian, I went just for one job down the street from my house as a jailer for the city of Fremont. And there was about 250 people taking the test, and a couple of guys were high-fiving and handshaking the administrators. I'm going, I'm not from his family. I'm not here. Right. This ain't going to go down like it looks like it is. This isn't, my test is worthless.
Yeah.
That's right. I'm like, this is a done deal. So, leave it to be. I end up in car sales, great. That's a great transition, but, I did that for a couple of years, and then health clubs, and then real estate was my main career, real estate and mortgages. But, after that, it's just always been about understanding businesses and things. It's really, I didn't have time for college. I started to go, but my money ran out, and I didn't know I could have used my voc rehab and all that. And now it's like they've determined it wouldn't work for me anyways now because I'd be too damn old. Who wants to hire a guy in his 50s? Hey, I just got my degree.
Yeah, right. Gotcha, man.
Be like that movie with De Niro where he's like the intern. He's like 70 or something like that. Like, yeah, he's a sprightly 51-year-old. He's ready to learn. No, he's probably, they're going, he's going to talk to me like he's my dad. I don't want to hear it from him. You have to try to talk up to me. So,
no, that's kind of, I don't know, feeling big time, especially with what I do
right? I mean,
now with radio and shit. I'm working, they're fucking like, I'm still in college and shit. And it's like, geez, which is cool. And it's like, it's kind of funny because at times I'm giving dad advice, but I'm trying to get laid by the 26-year-old girl that's coming to our booth.
Trying to use your radio status. Yep, it's out there. Now they know they know your tricks. They're going to listen to the podcast.
Yeah.
That's my primary
well, you should also know I put out on the first date. So, yeah.
Oh, you Seabees. Oh my goodness. We were really tame on the ships, let me tell you. You didn't know much about the Navy side, did you? Or did you not?
I didn't really have to deal with it much of the Navy side. You know what I mean? Like,
like the fleet, you were in the Navy. It's kind of a funny thing to say, but
no, fleet, it's true. I don't know ship classes. I don't know any of that shit. The only reason why I ended up learning that is because I was a Navy recruiter. And then when I was doing the Navy recruiter, I'm like, what does DDG mean? You know what I mean? Like, that kind of shit. I'm like, dude, I don't fucking, what does CVN mean? Like, oh, okay, cool. Because if I ask you, like, do you know what a CVMU is? Do you know what it's, and do you know what an NMCB or a CVMU or an ACB is? Or an NCTC?
Nope.
Like, no, you know what I'm saying? So
that's all your own language right there.
Exactly. It's like Naval Construction Training Center. Like,
I'm not dumb enough to pretend to know it all. That's for sure. Like, no, I don't know.
Right.
But, I think that, just looking at the different services, some guys are like, oh, we don't talk to them. I talked to another guy that had a podcast. He was a different branch of the Navy. I'm not even going to say what side, but it wasn't Special Forces. And he was like, no, I can't really help you. I'm like, oh, geez, man, I get a lot of downloads. I could have helped your podcast. I don't know why you, want to be so on that side. Weren't we all the Navy? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, fuck them, dude.
I was like, whatever, dude. It's like, you're only holding back from the rest of the world that loves to listen to our stories.
Yeah.
And, I'm like open, like, what was the Seabees like? What was the Marines like? What was the Air Force like? And, I know what the Air Force and the Army's like because I grew up around it. Guys would go into the field. We would go to sea, but they wouldn't go for 6 months out in the dirt. No way in hell. They'd maybe go for 2 or 3 weeks usually, or a month most, TDY, unless they were deployed, in a war zone.
Well, like that's the thing too. Like pre 9/11, dude, we're like you'd have Okinawa, Guam, Spain, and Puerto Rico were our 4 sites. But say like I don't know, pick one of the 4. We'll say Okinawa. So while we're in Okinawa, we have that's where our main body is. Our det sites are going to be Chinhae, Pohang, Korea, Yokosuka, Atsugi, Sasebo, Iwakuni. That's mainland Japan. Probably something in the Philippines, maybe about like 2 dets there. And you're talking about like a couple other things that tandem thrust was going on a lot. So that's Australia, so you had that and you had all these cool places, and then Iraq happened. Then you had just a little skeleton in Guam, but then you'd have all over Iraq, all over, and we're doing maintenance in Kuwait and, you have special people going special places. I don't even fucking know. And honestly, I don't want to know because then I don't ever talk about it. You got people going to like cool places like that.
Well, what places did you get stationed? I mean, other than war zones, but like, did you go to Spain? Did you go to Australia?
Well, I was in
Guam.
Okinawa, Puerto Rico, Honduras, Haiti, and Korea, Saipan, Villegas Island outside Puerto Rico. So I've been to some pretty cool places, and then also you have your Kuwait, Iraq, and that kind of shit too. So my last deployment was Okinawa.
I did a tour up there.
What's that?
I was up there. I was there for Desert Storm, and that was a very quick turnaround. We were in, we were out, we were done.
Oh, so were you on a ship then, or?
Yeah, I was on a ship. There's
a couple camps there I had to help out on, and most of the time Camp Aeroshaw in Kuwait, I fucking hated that place. It's a good base. It's just the way Army does business, and they kind of like the way Army did business there was different. You know what I mean? Like most Army are pretty cool, I think.
Yeah.
But then you just had more of a garrison attitude, which, in other words, they're not. I like nitty gritty motherfuckers that want to get dirty and want to fucking. They're there to do their shit, not there to worry about your evaluations and fit reps and shit. And you had a lot of the people that were more worried about fit reps and looking pretty, and places like Camp Aeroshaw in Kuwait. Than you did in like some of the hard places, Ramadi, you know what I mean? Like we have badass motherfuckers, or Fallujah, and they're there to get dirty,
Yep. That's so true. I mean, it's funny. You and I looked at it as our job. I can tell you and I have the same mindset.
Yeah.
Everyone, there's other people that were looking at it like, how can I work the system, fluff my record, look like I did more than I did, take credit for everything within a mile?
And I had a lot of friends that did,
move up the ranking,
and that could do both. And then that was my problem. I wasn't well rounded enough to do both. Like I wanted to do like the hard shit, but I didn't want to be like, there's a lot of things where I took, I'm like, oh, I'm not going to do that because that's what bitches work. And then, no, that's really what you're supposed to do. And then there's things like that I could have done differently, but at the end of the day, I fucking never sold out. I did everything my way, and not a whole lot of people can say that,
You did it Sinatra style, man.
Yeah, matter of fact, that was part of my retirement.
That's the thing, though. I mean, you made it. You made a career of it, which is getting harder to do since people are. What are they doing to it?
That's why I was like really happy to stay 20 years, dude. They got rid of a third of my force, while I was in.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people get like squeezed out and like, oh, well, you're almost there, but you're not. Go finish up your time at the post office.
Yeah, man. They're getting rid of Seabees like left and right, bro. It's fucking nuts.
It's interesting. I don't know if a lot of that's going to change with automation. I mean, there's crazy stuff out there. Are you familiar with cement printed homes? Have you seen those?
Yeah. I've seen that. It's pretty neat how they do that shit.
Pretty neat. Yeah, that's how I want to build my house, is just get a big piece of land and have a thing come out there and print me a house in 24 hours.
Yeah, those concrete printers, man, those are interesting.
Yeah, that's our new gig. But, your people have been waiting for a podcast. Now they get some of you being, kind of interviewed more so, cause you throw yours in just like I do. I throw my stories in there. Like I did this, I did that. But I don't know. I think some of the guys from my ship did go on to become Seabees. There's one guy that was on my podcast who talked about, what he did for his son. Basically, his friend did for his son. He's like, so what do you want to do? What's your plan? He's talking to him high school. He's going through high school. He goes, well, tell me if you get a plan. And, if you don't, I'll see you when you graduate. So, dad comes through. He goes, oh, you don't have a plan? Come with me. Takes him down to the Navy recruiter and gets him into the Seabees. And then after he graduates, he's gone through A school and everything. He gets a letter from his son. He's, thank you so much, Dad. I couldn't have picked anything better myself. And, a lot of guys like the Seabee thing. I mean, were most Seabees long-term servers, or was there a quick turnaround, or what was that like usually?
It was weird. It was just kind of went like an accordion, really. Because like when I came in, they were downsizing, and then I'd say a majority are. I don't know, man. A lot stick around. It's pretty interesting how many do.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why advancement was pretty shitty. A lot of people want to stick around. So, I mean, somebody has to die or get out before you get promoted, so.
That makes it tough. I mean, you look at the civilian world, you see your civilian friends coming up, getting a house, building a family. You're like, yeah, but I'm in Japan and we just had a Rager cake party. Yeah. I mean, it's like, you can't compare the two. And if you're doing one, you're like, oh, it looks so comfortable what he's doing. Then you go live that house and you're living in that perfect little, nuclear family life. And you're going, oh man, I missed the action. It's always one side or the other, I don't know. You're having your changes going through, getting out of it. You miss it. It's 20 years. I think I would have felt the same way. I don't know what it would have been like, You have other friends retiring too right now, right around this time?
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. I'm going to retirements left and right now, because like I hit my 20, but then like a lot of the guys that came in a little bit after me, it's kind of like a ship's wake. You know what I'm saying? Like the people that come in like after you do, those are the ones that are fucking retiring and re-enlisting, like a buddy of mine, Jeremy Miller, he's a builder over in Fort Hueneme. He's on his way to Gulfport, Mississippi. Good dude. And we worked together at we did comms, communications, and taught that together. And years ago, like fucking 10 years ago. And but he's still a good buddy of mine, and him and his family. So I went and watched him retire, and then I went and seen Abe Obeda, which was he's an equipment operator. I got to get him on my podcast one of these times, but probably one of the best and most humble, chill dudes. That's internally a badass, but he won't talk about it. You know what I mean? He just is, and. So that's cool. And, yeah, man, a lot of fucking retirements, dude.
Those that don't usually have to talk about it much. They just are.
That's the cool part.
That's like rich people.
I love about being in Virginia Beach with team guys. Because I get hockey I worked for the Norfolk Admirals as my night job was working for an American Hockey League team. And I get people tickets. Like I get comp tickets every once in a while, and I just, give them away because I get, I could hook people up with them and a lot of team guys. And I've noticed that when we'd hang out, like some of them would be like, yeah, man, I'm part of a baseball team, or I'm a part of the hockey team, or there's something else, and they don't want to say, yeah, I'm a Navy SEAL. You know what I mean?
It's like, give credit where credit's due. Everybody wants to be the toughest and most badass in some ways. But the thing is, it's like, just like, okay, I was in the world of mixed martial arts. You're in the hockey world. Here's the thing. I'm not sitting here in the mixed martial arts world going, hockey players that fight are not tough. They're badasses.
Right.
They're a different kind of fighting. It's another martial art. It's hockey arts. And when we were up in Canada with my ship, a couple of sailors were getting into it with the Canadian guys who were really polite and nice. Like, oh, you want to dust them up, huh? And these guys just started, dropping them. And I just got in the middle of it and stopped the Canadians from continuing to whoop ass. You think of them as peaceful, nice people. but you forget that they fight every day on the ice.
Yeah,
and they are fighting more than you are, and you're not giving them the mileage and the ability that they have. You know, you're not taking into consideration what you think is this is your big fight of the year. This is 187 to this dude.
Yeah, here's plug 47 on the show. It's like George Peros. He's an American hockey player, but he's an enforcer. He's got a clothing line called Violent Gentleman, and it's pretty cool because that's literally what people in, you know, Canadians are, violent gentlemen. You know, it's pretty cool.
It's so true, but it's such a hospitable place. It was a great place. I lived in Canada before. I used to live up in Quebec, up in Trois-Rivières, Three Rivers. Right. So I get a little taste of Canada and their poutine, which is awesome. I could eat a bucket of that right now. I don't know. You know what that is, poutine?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And they're actually starting to sell it at more hockey games too now. Believe it or not.
That is the greatest arterial clogging yum food ever. But I don't know, man. You were back. I got you back into the world of podcasting, and now you get a podcast, and we get to do another one, and you'll come up here and visit me, and I'll show you around the Bay Area, let you see some good stuff up here, man. I think you really like it.
Sounds good, because I'm at Amoeba Records like all the time. It's right down the road from me here in Hollywood, and then you guys have two. You have one in right on Haight-Ashbury, Haight-Ashbury, and then you have one in Berkeley, and it's like my favorite record store in the world, you know, so...
Do you find like old vinyl that's been like hard to find stuff, like rare stuff?
Yeah, that's my thing, man. Like I collect primarily Motorhead. It's been like one of my favorite bands, you know, Lemmy. I could talk about Lemmy forever, but that's kind of like my fucking role model, dude. Like if you said who are my role models as a kid, I'd say Optimus Prime and Lemmy Kilmister. You know what I mean? Because it's true, man. Like just the fucking that rock and roll attitude and being true to yourself and doing your own shit and doing it right. The first time, I might don't fuck if anyone won't like it, fuck them. Hey, you know what I mean? So
I watched this documentary. It was a great documentary, and
such
you know,
a good guy.
Well, you were down there. You probably ran into him down there in the comedy store, down the Whiskey, the Roxy. All that stuff is right there.
The Whiskey,
on Sunset.
The Rainbow, actually.
The Rainbow, great, yummy food. I love that food.
Good pizza, and good burgers too. Like, no, like that's actually, dude. I'll get into it. I thought you were trying to wrap this up, but I'll tell you. No, like I go in and I fucking I go down there just to like. First, I was scared to talk to Lemmy, and then after I talked to him, I'd always go back and try to talk to him as much as possible, which is funny, you know, and. You know, I was getting frustrated doing open mics, doing comedy, and he was really cool. He's like, oh, mate, you know, fucking, I don't do this shit I do this shit for me, mate. I just shit for me. You know, I don't do it for anybody else. But your comedy, see? Oh, I got a joke. All right, see. Why, what do you call, how do you make that baby float? It's like, I don't know, man. 2 scoops of ice cream, 2 scoops of dead baby.
Oh, my gosh.
I was like, oh, fuck yeah. It's like one of my favorite jokes from when I was like 10 and shit. Why the rubber fly to the air? I was like, I don't know, man. Why? Because he got pissed off. See? I'm like, oh, dude, this is great.
So you started having... Let me write your material there. Hey, Lemmy. I need you to
they're old
stuff.
Street jokes that I loved since I was a little kid. Now Lemmy's telling them, so it's like hearing them the first time all over again, but better. You know, because fucking a rock god is telling you this shit. You know, so that was legit.
Isn't that the cool thing, though? Like, you know, this is something people might not think about. This brings the podcast back to life for a few more minutes. We grew up listening to music, and music was like, we'd get high on that music. You know, you're listening to some album you just got in Japan, or you're in Korea, and you're checking out this new music, or you're checking out some retro music that you really like, and you're just vibing with it. It kind of ties to the experience. Like, I grew up jamming out to Motley Crue in Italy in high school. And, you know, I'm like, wow, they so know me. They know me, man. Cause I'm like, you know, my mind is, it's like when you read your horoscope. You know, you could change the horoscopes and all of them would apply to you, even if you changed the signs, right? Like if you shuffled them and then reprinted it and everyone would still come to the same conclusion because that mindset. So I'm growing up on Motley Crue. My German friend, Tom Flessa, who had a heavy accent, who was hilarious. He goes, yeah, this is Motley Crue, a rock man. Yeah, rock with Motley Crue. He brings this stuff out. And, good old Tom Flessa hooked me up with them. And, years later, like 30 years later, or I don't know how many years later, it was quite a few later. My buddy is like, hey man, I know Tommy Lee's hairdresser. He's cool. He does his hair. He does my hair. I'm like, okay. My buddy's kind of a metrosexual kind of dude.
Right.
So he's like, I got his tickets. I got his backstage. So we go see them over at the Shoreline. And I'm like, well, why are we going backstage? I have no idea, but whatever. And, we're back there and, Tommy Lee is spinning house music. And I like the house music because I grew up going to discos because that was the thing in Europe. And, I'm like, well, there's me and you and there's 25 beautiful women. Don't we look special? What's our job in this movie? You know what I mean? So I just go into his trailer and start making myself a ton of Jägermeister bombs because he's just got kegs of it and stuff. And I go out there and I just start dancing with the ladies. And my friend's over there talking to Tommy Lee and Tommy's talking to him. He's like, yeah, that guy over there, he's an amazing dancer. So I go over to meet him. Hey, nice to meet you, Tommy. He's like, hey man, you're an amazing dancer. I'm like, yeah, thanks, buddy. And that was kind of the peak of what I thought was tough and cool and rock and roll and hard and manly. I was waiting for it to be something cooler than that, but I got the amazing dancer out of it. And it was a little less masculine than I thought.
Yeah, but still, that's something you walk away from and nobody else has that story. You know what I mean? That's fucking you, dude.
But that's like, so I when you talk about your Hollywood life, I used to go down there a lot. I used to stay at the Standard or the Roosevelt, and I knew some guys that lived over in Las Feliz and stay at their house. And, cause I had all the fighters and all the people wanted to meet the fighters and vice versa. And, the comedy club, you meet, that's a huge magnet for celebrities of every kind. I mean, you probably see 100 celebrities a week going through there.
Well, Dr. Dre was just there the other day, and, it's like people like Larry David went up and did a spot. He doesn't really do stand-up that often, so that was pretty cool. And then Eddie Van Halen stories are always cool, and it's really, really great. Jimmy Kimmel hangs out a lot. I wouldn't say a lot. He comes through every once in a while, and his warm-up guy is Don Barris, and he's like my favorite living comic. So, there'll be like special. Kimmel will be there.
He's in a podcast.
What's that?
He's going to podcast too, right? Don Barris?
Yeah. It's Simply Don. Simply Don Podcast Network. But yeah, he does Simply Don and also the Ding Dong Show, and then also like Windy City Heat, which that's also a good fucking one to check. A good movie to check out if you like fake reality. It was real. It's real. That movie is real. So you gotta watch that. It's fucking funny as shit. You're like, no way is this guy really this big of a piece of shit talking about Perry Caravello. And he really is that big of a piece of shit. So you gotta watch it, man. It's like real legit, funny, and it's hard to believe that it's a real story.
What's the trip is that you're walking into the thing is that you're walking in two worlds, and you're in the world of the greatest, advertising, media, entertainment, propaganda, which is Hollywood. And then you lived in the world of the military, which is another crazy world. And so you divide the two. You go hang out with your friends in Port Hueneme.
That's for San yeah, man.
Right. You need to go back to the balance base. Yeah. Because that's really who we are.
That is the balance, dude. I have to go back every once in a while. I just did this badass NMCB 4, Naval Construction Battalion 4 just did this reunion, and it was cool because like he had guys. The battalion's been around since Seabees been around since 1942. People don't realize that that we were created in World War II. We're not long. We haven't been around long, 75 years, right? So
yeah.
But there's so many people been in and out of that battalion since 42, and it was just like a good way to meet everybody up, and they let me do a set. And I was like, fuck, because there was like a lot of funny shit I wanted to say, but I didn't want to get too graphic but at the same time, I still had a chance to do a fun set. And it was great because I had a chance to do both worlds, stand-up comedy with military vets in the public. You know what I mean?
That's the thing. Have you been trying to get on a USO tour or anything like that?
Yeah, it's just hard to get booked on them. But I'd love to do that. I mean, that's my thing, you know. I mean, that's why I do my podcast and stuff like that, so I can reach out to fellow troops. Initially, it started because I couldn't tour. I was stuck in a job in Virginia Beach. I was, stationed there. That's when I first started it. And then it turned into something I try to do as often as possible. And now I try to do it as often as I have motivation.
Well, no, you'll get fired up again, man. It's just like, the podcast thing. I've been there too with you where I'm like, man, you're having a hard week booking people or getting appointments to do it. And you're like, yeah, I didn't get a lot of hits. I didn't get a lot of hits my last episode. All of a sudden, the next one just kills.
It takes one person that just kind of gets under your skin, and then you're like, everybody else is like, oh, this is great. And then it's just that one fucking gnawing thing that just eats at you. You're about any imperfection made it not good, and you're like, the whole thing's ruined because of this. And I think that's the thing is trying to be successful. Shameless. What's that?
You got to be shameless. I think that's the best way. Like Joey Diaz is kind of, I like that about,
Joey's the man.
He put in his time. He put out his story. He's got a flavor, and it does well for him. That's what got me into podcasting too.
He's bad flavor. What are you talking about? Put some flavor. He's mad flavor. Joey Coco Diaz. Don't fuck with me, motherfucker. It was me and Joe Rogan. We was over at the fucking club. It was on these fucking edibles. And all of a sudden this little motherfucker comes in, he's a transvestite, whatever, motherfucker. Joey Diaz, man.
That's him. He's got a lot of that 70s funk flavor. He brings the times. So listening for me getting into podcasting, I listened to him 4 or 5 years because I couldn't sleep because I have that bad PTSD insomnia stuff. And I've had it for 20 something years. So I'm like, I'll listen to podcasts because if I leave my TV on, I can't sleep even more so. So the worst case, I get stuck for 2.5 hours listening to a podcast and falling asleep the third to the last minute in it. Right. And so I'd listen to the comedians, and I don't go to a ton of comedy shows or anything. But what I noticed was that, what I liked about their show was that you guys talk about your road stories.
Yeah.
And I go, shit, that's just like the Navy. Oh, we were in Japan. We were in Canada. We were in the Philippines, right? So yours was the best of both because I was in Iraq. I was in Korea, whatever. And then you were a comedian. So you kind of like got all of that and then some. I don't know if you ever had the same conclusion I did on that.
Yeah. My very first episode was talking about being lonely and fucking hookers and shit in Okinawa. I mean, it's funny too because it's like, I don't know. I think it's called Joshua's radio show. It was like, I forget what it was called, but it was the first one I did. And I was talking about buy me drinky to girls in Okinawa and shit. And it was pretty fun. And I put a picture behind everything I was describing, so like you can watch it on YouTube.
Well, it's funny because the Navy takes you places, whether you're in the Seabees or you're on a ship, you get to go to different places. That's just not typical, civilian tourist attractions a lot of times.
Right.
And it tends to cater like, oh, there's sailors and soldiers here. Let's put a bunch of, back alley bars, hula hoop dancing, whatever. Yeah. Let's get some guys in here. And there's everything from con man, hustlers, muggers, and pimps and gangsters waiting to fuck with you too. They want to be around the action.
And it's
so
kind of sad. Okinawa is not how it used to be. You know what I mean? Like there was a couple years where you weren't allowed to go off base. Within that time frame, all the shady shit left, dude. There was a place called Whisper Alley that people would be like, they go for hookers, and you'd have millions of stories. And I'm sorry, I'm breaking somebody's heart telling this to you. But when they also had the banana show, which you can let your imagination go on how the girl put a banana in her pussy and shot it at you. And that's not there anymore. It's at the President's Club. Everything's like kind of gone and done because of that shit,
It's you get to see some of the grittier underbelly of it all, and so did I. And then, as things you got more PC and things that used to be acceptable are like, oh my gosh, it's a lethal sin, but then other things change where marijuana is legalized, but it's not legalized in the Navy.
Right.
And, you know, I've talked to sailors of the 70s, and they were smoking weed out at sea. And I go, man, that would have been really cool, you know. But then I thought about it, and the reason I'm alive is because I wasn't high and I was on point out in the Gulf when, you know, nasty things happen. And I was able to help, you know, call the bridge and have us avoid them. But that's the thing.
This is where my debate with that would go, is that, but you have alcohol readily available to you too. The thing is like, you're not drunk at work, you're not high at work. You know what I'm saying? So even if weed was legal, it's not like you're going to be smoking at work anyway. You know what I mean?
Well, it's a different thing. I mean, alcohol, you get drunk, you get buzzed, you get sober.
Yeah.
Weed is, you know, it's a different thing. I mean, I'm certainly happy for the people that are using it instead of opiates and stuff for their pain. But I do think that, if I were to be in a job and I smoked a lot of weed every day, I'd be less motivated. So it's no hate against it. I mean, there's people that need it because they're really high strung.
Buds though, man. You have indica and sativa. You know, one kind of brings you up and one kind of like mellows you out, you know, and then, you know, you got to know what kind of shit you're doing. And then it also, I'm a firm believer that if you stop 8 hours bottle to throttle or bong to throttle, I guess you would say, you know, you're going to be, you know, no matter what it is, you know, because by then it's going to not, it's in your system, but it's going to be worn off. You know what I mean? Well,
you get two scenarios. Guy's steering a ship. He's drunk off his ass. He kind of like is not steering very well and runs into the shoals. The other scenario is guy's steering the ship. He's stoned off his ass, leaves his post to go get some munchies. The ship runs into something. That's my outlook on it, but not that would happen. I mean, there's not that it's a bad drug. Alcoholic stepfathers make alcoholic look bad. People get violent on it. And marijuana, you know, the worst thing a guy that's really stoned's going to do is offer you some pizza. And it's not so bad.
I honestly think like weed is so much better than alcohol, man. I don't ever drink, you know, and that's, you know, like, so if you got like, if people are just like at the end of the night after they're done working and they smoke a bowl like together in the smoking section, who gives a shit? You know what I mean? But I mean, obviously it's illegal, but if it was legal and with the way it is now, I mean, you know exactly what you're taking. It's like before, all right, during Prohibition, you drank a bottle of whatever the fuck you could get to get drunk, right? And then now we're no longer in Prohibition. You can go to the liquor store and you know what Jägermeister does to you. You know exactly what Wild Turkey does to you. You know what Budweiser does to you. You know, you have an idea. And it's the same thing with weed now, you know, and so, you know, you're not going to drink a fuck ton of Wild Turkey before you go to work. You know what I'm saying? You know?
Yeah, it's true.
Or the night before something amazing happens, but you might have a beer with a couple friends. You know what I mean? So.
Well, you don't drink, and I don't really drink, but we used to tie it on pretty hard. I'm guessing you did.
That's the same thing. Seabees was notorious for that.
I went through rehab in the Navy, and like got sober for 18 friggin' years. And then, you know, one day I decided to loosen up a little bit after a big breakup, and I'm like, you know, become a really uptight citizen. So I had a few drinks and couple drinks. The 2-beer buzz was amazing. I wasn't ever too shitty at the end of the night. I was smooth talking and happy walking, and it worked. But then I get over even needing social lubricant and just being comfortable with who I was. So I don't know. You know, there's nothing to escape when you're kind of like retired. You know, when you're working and you're under duress. Go on.
Oh no, my problem was I never really had too much of a drinking problem per se. I mean, I got in trouble. I did some dumb shit when I was drunken, but and this is what really kind of pisses me off, and I think it's kind of shitty. All right, let me preface this with most of the people at the VA are good fucking people. All right, you have really good people trying to help. This is what pisses me off though, is that when I had my surgery, the Navy gave me a fuck ton of pills, and I kind of got a little strung out on pills. You know, to the point where I still talk to people and I make sure that I'm good to go. But, you know, and I'm an addict, dude, you know, and that's how it is. You know, I can't when it comes to that kind of shit, I'm an addict. But
no, I understand.
The problem is that they fucking lumped it in they put PTSD, traumatic brain injury, and they put them all together. They're like 4 totally different things. But PTSD, traumatic brain injury, alcoholism, all in one line in my fucking thing. I'm like, are you kidding me? That's like, that's fucking dumb, dude. It's granted, I get it. It's with the head, but at the same time, it's different parts of the head. You know what I mean? Like,
they're different causes and effects. I mean, it's a difference
between
being bipolar and schizophrenic is a totally different thing. But as we adjust and I try to help other veterans with their VA stuff. So do you. You know, people can hit us when we do what we can with what we can without being full.
I need to fucking get a rep. I never got a rep, dude. And that's one of the things, like, I'm starting to find that out now because, like, I think I was saying before we did the podcast is I got a thing like saying not service connected for my ankles too. I've been in since I was 19 years old. You know what I mean? And it says not service connected.
They wouldn't let you in with bad ankles. Well, they also got me out on my knee and paid me and said you have a percentage, and then my knee's still jacked up, and they go, oh no, it's not a percentage. It's not true, but. There's a certain point where you're getting as good as you can get. There's no point in fighting and just creating more problems.
Right.
And that's all it is.
I think having a VSO would probably have been better for me to do than cause I did everything on my own and I probably should have, hit somebody up for some help,
Well, definitely. I advise, I'll give you 2 pieces on that. Number one, go through the VSO as a veteran service officer, ask what to look for and all that. But then if you get turned down for anything, you can appeal it and you can hire an advocate attorney that specializes in that. And they won't, they work like on commission. They work on retainer. Like if you get a back pay of so many years, they'll take a percentage of it, usually 20%.
Nice.
But they usually won't take your case unless they feel they can win it because they're going to work. And, it's like they'll look at you and they're like, nah. But if they think they got you, there's ones that try to get you to pay up front. I don't advise them because I haven't seen any good results from that because, that's not what I think you're looking for. I think you're looking for the attorneys like, I know I got this. I can see your case clearly. We're going to go these 3 directions with it. I'll appeal this. I'll appeal that. And I'll get you what you rightfully deserve. And a lot of times what happens is things get misdiagnosed or you say the wrong thing because you don't know that the couple more things you could have said would have brought it over because you're not a doctor or you don't know how to evaluate things.
When you go talk to doctors, you're not feeling the pain that day, but you did Monday through Friday, but on that Tuesday, or on that Saturday, you're fine. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. No, it shows up, man. And it's like one thing that people have trouble proving, a big one. I talked to the guy the other day. I had sleep apnea because I get in a bad motorcycle wreck in the Navy. So I gained 35 pounds in a month, and I started choking in my sleep and I was still enlisted, still under the umbrella. And they misdiagnosed me with some kind of asthma. I'm like, I'm not asthmatic. I ran a 723 mile and a half. Are you kidding me? How can this be? And now I couldn't run anymore because my knee was gone and I'm choking in my sleep. So the last week in the Navy, this is the only saving grace is that I was trying to get sleep studies done, but they put me on a tiny gurney and I'm a big dude and I could not fall asleep on this little, like a stretcher almost,
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't fall asleep. So, but at least they had the record of it and then they evaluated and they go, yeah, it's cause and effect. It was all legit because you can have a good paper trail, but it's also how to talk through it and know what's not being looked at. If you just rush through it, you're not doing yourself any service there, So that's that. But yeah, for podcasting, how do people find your podcast?
Just go into iTunes and type in Josh O'Brien or Josh O's radio show, and it's if you got looking at the little record cover looking whatever it is, it'll have me half the picture, one half the picture. It's in Brooklyn. One picture is me standing in my dress blues, and the picture right next to it's me standing in a Motorhead hoodie. And it's basically you know what I mean, like, and it's kind of like the best of both worlds because I started doing it when I was still on active duty. Like the old days, I had probably like 20 something different hockey enforcers on there. I had Dave Brockie, rest in peace, the lead singer of Guar. He died not too long ago. Lewis Black was on my show. Steve Simone. I had a lot of comics, man. Brent Ernst, Dodd Barris. Some good.
So you're gonna get more people. We gotta listen to my audience. Tune into Josh's show. He's Navy. It's family. I want you guys to check him out and listen for sure. And any of you Seabee guys, there's a lot of stuff on the Ocean Navy that you might want to hear about, because we're all curious about what the other guy did or what other course any of us could have took. What would have happened if I went and worked in the Seabees? What would have happened if you went on a ship? We have a lot of different stories.
No, we're good. We don't need to know that shit. No, I'm just kidding.
You guys totally kidding. Let me tell you, man. Honestly, you did not know the excitement.
Dude, I don't know how many times I hear these cool West Pack and East Pack or whatever fuck pack stories, and I'm like, dude, I want to pack my bags and go on one of those. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm just fucking with you. I did 20 years in the Navy, and it's so funny when people are like, what ship are you on? That's the very first fucking question. So a lot of times I don't even say Navy. I was like, oh, I was in the military, because I already know that the question is going to be, what ship were you on? Where were you at? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, never been on a ship. You know what I mean?
That was in a very unique, obscure, high-level military construction company.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. Take that in for a second and digest it, okay?
Take that.
But yeah, hit you up on Facebook, and do you have a Twitter out there too?
Yeah, at Josh 96 OBRIEN, Josh O'Brien. So Josh 96 O'Brien. That's my Twitter, my Instagram, my Snapchat. I do a lot of shit with KLOS. We just did a bunch of different rock festivals, so I'm always Snapchatting shit now like a fucking 14-year-old little schoolgirl. But it's pretty cool, man.
The way of the world.
I just was hanging with Manson and fucking Rob Zombie and all that other stuff the other day with and then I got I'm always snapping this shit, and I'm hanging with Fat Mike from No Effects, because the Frosty, Heidi, and Frank morning radio show's birthday party was done at Sea Legs in Huntington Beach, and they played the show. It was Bad Religion, No Effects. There's a lot of punk bands strung out. It's really fun. It was really big, and
that sounds like a killer setup. I mean, it
was amazing, and punk rockers, dude, they're the best. You got time? Or here, real quick, funny story on that. We're tearing down in the middle of the show because we're tearing down the beer tent. They're tearing down the beer tent, so we're tearing down our little KLOS tent, and we're trying to get done before Bad Religion goes on stage. Big mistake. Because as we're leaving, the fucking crowd, we're walking through the middle of people, and then we're like, "Boom, get out of the way!" And then some of the people are really cool. So you'd have one punk rocker tapping another punk rocker, and continuously down. It was fucking, we're parting the punk rock seas. It was Moses pushing a golf cart. You know what I mean? Or a hand cart, I mean. And everybody's like, well, and we went through a mosh pit, and they're like, oh, sorry. And people are so cool. And I'm handing I always have free Comedy Store tickets because they love me over there. And so I'm always giving them out to cool people. So I'm like, dude, thank you so much. So you got all these people that are blocking traffic and mosh pits, and dude, Bad Religion's on stage, and we're walking by the fucking stage. You know how congested it is at a punk rock show towards the stage? And these guys were awesome, dude. So if any of you guys were at that show, thank you very much for helping us out, because you guys fucking rock. And so yeah, man, just
this is all
day. I did Not Fest, and this weekend was Ozfest and Not Fest, which that was fucking awesome. Yeah, dude, it's fucking nuts. It's good times though.
It's kind of funny. You're going to be heard based on my analytics. You're going to be heard in many different countries. I just had someone download one from Germany and Great Britain and Netherlands. As I'm looking at it, I mean, that's how crazy the podcast is.
Get some Norwegian motherfuckers, because they love that death metal shit. I call it Cookie Monster rock. I don't see us for cookie.
That's some throat ripping. I have a friend that does that. He's a singer. He has a normal voice when he's talking, but then I would figure he'd walk up to you, hello.
Right.
It's pretty
Dying fetus. No, there's a Jim Carrey thing about Napalm Death. It's fucking hilarious. And it's
I just find out all the metal. when it gets to metal and thrash metal, it's like a different type of music. I haven't bought an album in forever. I'm kind of stuck in my old genre, but anything that's fun, like I told you, like running into your old stars and stuff. We definitely going to do a podcast when you come up here in San Francisco live. So you guys got to stay tuned for that. And maybe when I run through LA one of these days.
Yeah, man.
And get to show each other's world. But this is Seabees and Signalman, which are actually fleet sailors working together and doing a podcast. And this is I'm releasing this on Veterans Day. This is happy Veterans Day to all you veterans. And look out for each other, collaborate. Look at me and Josh sharing a podcast. We should have more of you guys on our show. And if you guys want to start a show, we'll help you cross promote it, man. This is what veterans are supposed to do for each other, People want to hear the real shit, the real to real, not about, whatever. They want to hear about some stuff that's gritty and back when men wore tight pants and, disco was cool, shit like that.
Back when people kept hair on their chest.
And medallions. Yeah. What sign are you, baby?
I just thought automatically my mind goes to fucking Indiana Jones. When you say medallions.
Oh, I want to say one more thing. Give us any good reviews that you can on iTunes, please. It helps us get our ratings. You can find us both on iTunes, AEC Stories for me, and the Josh O radio show on iTunes.
Radio show. Josh O''S radio show. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. And there's no Josh O without the apostrophe S. You're lucky.
Right.
If somebody tries, that's a market that hasn't been tapped.
On Stitcher, I'm on most of my shit, though. Most of my biz comes off of iTunes. So I always end my podcast, and I know you're going to say your closing stuff, but I'll just do mine before you do yours. That way, yours is officially closing yours show. But
I already did. Go ahead.
All right, cool, man. But like I always try to say is like for those I followed, thanks for making me a better leader. And for those I've led, thanks for making me a better person. Keep your chin up. Never let the bastards get you down. Fuck the bozos. Never forget. Obi loves you.
Yeah. Strong stuff from a strong man.
Never forget, Obi loves you.
Yeah, strong stuff from a strong